Alright, in this video I'm going to be going over an argument that I saw in a group where, like, let me just describe the situation. Alright, so this is a group where many of the people in it don't know a lot about computers. And then there's a lot of people that do know a lot about computers, but, you know, there's fanboyism out there. And it's ridiculous at this point. Now, the, like, disclaimer kind of thing, the person in the post that asked the question, you know, he didn't know a lot about computers, and, like, this is, like, backstory kind of thing. He said he will be only gaming, but, like, that's what I'm going to be going over. Now, a long time ago, when I was first getting into computers, when I didn't really know anything about it, obviously, like, I was just into gaming. I wanted to get on PC. Like, instead of console, I couldn't stand it. I needed to be on PC. You know, I didn't think that I was going to be making videos like I am today. And not that long ago, I was still on the computer that I chose a while ago. And it was really disappointing to see that I could have made a decision that would have fixed that. And this person is being told to make the decision that I made and screw up. And the person that's making the recommendation knows a lot about computers and knows everything that I'm about to say. And it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Now, basically, it's the 7600K, so an i5, versus a Ryzen 5 1600. Now, we're talking, like, they are the same price, theoretically. If you're going to buy an aftermarket cooler, they're the same price. But the Wraith Spire that comes with the 1600 can do the job. You know, I'm using it right now, running at 100% fan speed. You can't hear it. And it's cooling down at 1700. So, much, you know, they claim it's kind of the same TDP, but, you know, we know it's not. So, I don't understand. So, basically what this guy was saying, he's like, if you're gonna choose, you know, choose the 7600K, and, you know, spend a little bit more money, because you'll get 1 to 5 extra FPS. Now, this guy's system's going to be running games that he said he'll be playing at around 100 FPS already. So he's saying spend extra money and sacrifice the ability to be able to do this kind of stuff down the line. Sacrifice multitasking, you know, down the line if you decide, or, like, that becomes an interest, for 1 to 5 extra FPS that you won't even notice. So that's a stupid argument. Obviously, if that's what you're doing, if you're on, like, I think the 1600 is a much better argument. Now, I'm not trying to AMD fanboy. Obviously, I own an AMD system, but I do content creation. I know that this system is for me. If I knew I was purely gaming and I was going to buy a high-end system like this, I just bought this system like a month ago. I would have bought a 7700K. If I knew I was only gaming, or say I had a different machine that could do content creation, and this machine would just be gaming, I would have bought a 7700K and went Intel instantly. I would know that that's a better value. But for 1 to 5 extra FPS, and you get, like, if you're sacrificing 1 to 5 extra FPS, you're spending, let's say, like, an aftermarket cooler costs $30, so you're gonna keep the Wraith Spire, like, theoretically. You're spending more money for 1 to 5 FPS, but you have to sacrifice the ability to be a content creator and be, you know, an artist, you know, show your creative side. If you decide that that's an interest, if you're going to do Photoshop or anything of the sort like that, that's a stupid thing to do, is to go buy a 77 or a 7600K over the 1600. Now, technically, the guy in this post when he first, like, made the statement, when he first asked the question, he said the 1600X, and not the 1600 that I would recommend. And then, but he was saying that he's gonna OC anyway, so that's a dumb thing. That's another argument for a different time. Don't buy the X model. I bought the 1700, and I was spending all that money already. If I was gonna spend it, I would have just went with the K, or I would have went with the X model, you know, if I really thought it was worth it, but I went with the 1700 because it's not worth it. And the 1800X, not really worth it at all. You could just buy a 1700, get almost the same performance, and, you know, if you were going to go Intel, there's an Intel option that gives you pretty good performance pretty much, like, higher performance, it's worth spending the little bit of extra money that it costs. So, the 1800X and the 1700X are out of the question for me. This is kind of a rant, too, sorry. But I don't see how you're gonna sacrifice let's see, we'll forget money. We'll forget that it's even, say it's costing you the exact same thing, even though it's not. Or if you were going to buy an aftermarket cooler anyway. You're going to sacrifice the ability to do content creation, to do things like that. I mean, don't get me wrong, the 7600K is still a good processor. But if you're going to do these things, the 1600 can do a much better job. But let's say you're going to sacrifice multitasking. So say you have a setup like I do. I watch Netflix while I'm playing GTA and stuff. I can do that. So if I was on an Intel system, that would be sacrificing, some game performance because I can't do that at the same time. But so you're going to sacrifice multitasking like what I just said, like as that example, for 1 to 5 extra FPS that you won't even notice. And someone made an argument that there is 240 Hz displays that you'll be able to see that difference. But, still. I mean, this guy, obviously, if he's not buying the 1700 or the 7700K, if he's looking for a more budget-oriented option, he's not going to go out and buy, let's say, it's going to be like $700 to go buy a monitor that has 240 Hz. Or, that could be wrong. So, take that with a grain of salt. I'll correct that somewhere on the screen if that's wrong. Because I don't look into monitors. I don't know that. Obviously, I'm using a 60 Hz 24-inch monitor. Obviously, I don't really care about refresh rate or anything like that. So, I'll correct myself if I was wrong there. But I just don't see why you would sacrifice multitasking capability down the line if, for 1 to 5 extra FPS in games you won't even see. Now, granted, it's not really 1 to 5 FPS. In some games, more CPU bound, that it will be more frame rate. But that was the argument that he was making. Like, that is, I quoted the 1 to 5 FPS numbers out of this guy's post. So, it could be in certain games, but the games that he was playing, it was pretty dead on the 1 to 5 FPS. That's all it would be costing him to buy the 1600 over the thing. So, I just don't get that. So tell me your thoughts in the comments. Or tell me if you want my opinion on something else. I'll gladly make these kinds of videos. This was very much enjoyable for me to be able to get this stuff out here. And I feel much better than I did when I started recording this. Because I was very pissed off that, he was telling this guy to make a unintelligent and unthought out, recommendation. Or choice. That guy would be choosing the 7600K over the 1700 or the 1600. I don't get that. So, tell me what you think. I read comments. I'll read them all. I got a lot of time on my hands. So, I'll see you guys in the next video. This has been Walrus. Alright, so this is an update. Firstly, for the monitor thing, obviously I didn't put something on the screen because I'm just going to talk about it right now because I had to update this anyway. You can get a 240 Hz monitor for $450, but I'm pretty sure my argument is still valid as that guy is not going to be buying a 240 Hz display. Just saying. And people that are buying the, if they're spending $215 on a processor, they're probably not buying a 240 Hz monitor. I'm just saying. I just don't think that that's how people would budget. But back to the rant. The guy said this is a quote. He says, "This shows your 7600K performing about 1 to 5 frames better." And then, thankfully, the guy that had made the post initially, I guess, has been getting information since then, because he commented, "I know that Intel processors are performing better in gaming, but I was going to pair it with a GTX 1060, a card that can perform about 100 FPS, which is like what I said, like 100 versus 105. And so I would say that a 1 to 5 FPS difference is not that huge of a deal. I am not planning to do video editing or anything of the type in the future, but the extra cores might help in other situations. So maybe he watches Netflix while he games or something. I don't know. If worried about, and then, okay, so the guy that I'm ranting about that is making that recommendation, I'm just assuming that he's an Intel fanboy, because he commented back, if worried about threads, change the 7600K to a 7700K and gain hyper-threading, which gives you 8 threads versus 4, which is not true because the 1600 has 6 threads. Oh, is he talking about, alright, maybe he's talking about the 7600K. Because you would have 4 cores, 4 threads. Considering the transition to Ryzen, no, because the guy didn't buy anything yet. Alright, so maybe this guy thinks that the guy already has a 7600K. I don't know, even if he does, that's still stupid. 1600, well worth it. I don't know. So there's that. And then I actually went and looked up gaming benchmarks. And it was on PC Gamer. You can, I'll put it in the description. I'll put exactly what I was reading in the description. And PC Gamer was showing the 1600X, which is basically what you'll have if you overclock the 1600, versus the 7600K, and it was beating it in some cases. It wasn't even that bad. Now, granted, the 7600K, there was a couple of games there where it was showing like 100 FPS difference, because the 1600 or 1600K, or I can't talk. The 1600X was getting it was getting like 115 frames compared, and then the 7600K was getting like 215 frames. You're not gonna notice that. And honestly, if the 7600K, I don't know if this is the case, but if it's jumping between like 115 frames to 215 frames, you'll notice that like tearing. Like the jumps in FPS, you'll see that. That will bother people. Maybe it'll bother this guy. I don't know. 1600, still the better option. Don't buy the 1600X. Buy the 1600 and overclock it. I'm actually releasing a video on how to overclock those CPUs, but only if you're on an X370 board, because I was using an X370 board and I don't want to say B352, because then, you might have to use offset mode depending on what board you buy, and that's just not a fun time. So there's that. This guy should be choosing the 1600. Don't buy the 7600K. That's all I gotta say. It's not worth sacrificing it. So this has been Walrus. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. I read all the comments. So I'll see you guys in the next one.